Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 2 of The Big Hit. We got some great content coming at you today. We're going to be opening off the show with an NFL roundtable. Then after that, we're going to be coming at you with IUP Sports with me, Elliot, and Stephen Langdon. But most importantly, guys, you got to stay tuned. Keep on watching. Let's go.
Welcome everyone back to yet another episode of The Big Hit.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, everyone, to The Big Hit.
Welcome to today's episode of The Big Hit. I'm Katie Dotz.
Sports Jeopardy. I'm assuming everyone already knows how to play Jeopardy, and
Welcome to The Big Hit's 2019 edition of Scrap for Your City.
Welcome back to The Big Hit, everybody. Here we're going to have a little roundtable on the NFL. Joining me, myself, Jake Spagnell, is Luke Smiltz, Jerry Chrisman, and the one and only Michael Sermer. So starting out, guys, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. Had a very hot start to the season, just like Patrick Mahomes, but then when he faced off against Kansas City, he did so. Do we still think he's a possible MVP candidate? Are we in or out on him?
I mean, with Lamar Jackson, yeah, he went against Kansas City, but then again, he went against toe-to-toe with the MVP of last year. So to me, I think he is going to do very, very well this year with his dual threat style. I mean, Michael Vick even said that his style is honestly either same with par or better than Michael Vick's. I mean, you saw the guy, he was juking everybody out. He can throw the ball downfield, which, by the way, people thought he couldn't do until he proved them wrong the first week by throwing 4 touchdowns in the game. So to me, I think Lamar Jackson's definitely going to make it in the NFL. He's definitely going to be as good as everybody says he is. So I think he's going to make it.
well, for me, I've seen the progress that Lamar Jackson has made coming into this season already. So with that in mind, I'm not out on him, but I think the pressure that he faced against the Chiefs is something to be concerned about. He had a lot of pressure in his face, which he didn't experience in previous games, and this led to inaccurate passes, throwing the ball up for grabs, things that you don't want to see in your young quarterback.
And going for it on 4th down on your own half field, too, when it's really early in the game. I understand it's the Chiefs, but give them half a field already, that's an automatic touchdown for Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, especially when he did throw those 4 touchdowns. He was playing Miami, which
That is true.
we know how they've been going this season. So, but maybe it's a mixture of like he's confident in everything since this is his full time as a starter. He didn't play a full season last year other than coming in for run plays. So I don't think it's, I wouldn't count him out just yet, but at the same time, I mean, if this is how he's going to play against, good opponents, they'd be like the opposite of the Steelers. Fall apart during bad ones. But speaking of the Steelers, obviously Big Ben is out for the season. But in general, a lot of the quarterbacks from the same class of 2004 are struggling. The Chargers aren't doing that great. I mean, they're performing well, but they've fallen short against opponents like the Lions and
Texans.
And Eli Manning just got benched. So what do we think the future holds for those 3? Is the era almost over? How's it look to be?
I think it is almost over, honestly, because when you have backups come up and perform the way they did, lead their team to victories or at least close to victories, I think that they can fill the role of their 2004 quarterbacks. Mason Rudolph almost won against the 49ers. Then you have Daniel Jones who led a comeback. Gardner Minshew who won that game. So I think this 2004 quarterbacks is definitely going to go soon, but maybe not immediately, but definitely in 2 to 3 years.
As long as Brady doesn't stay any more years, I don't have any problems. But as far as the class of 2004, they're going to stay at least 2 more years to teach the backups how to play ball and teach them playbook and make sure to go flying high and score a bunch of touchdowns and
Learn to flop when you need to flop.
Well, for me, I think the era on the 2004 quarterbacks is closing in and going to be done very soon. Phillip Rivers, his team's beat up, so it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for him this year. I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to push for it, but I think the injuries and just not having everyone on board is really going to be an issue for them. Big Ben, he has not come out and said yet what his surgery repaired, so that's kind of up in the air. Tommy John was ruled out, which is a good thing, especially for a quarterback, but we'll have to see what kind of a quarterback he is when he comes back from surgery. Is he going to have absolutely no arm like last year of Peyton Manning's career, or is he going to be good as new? So we have to see about that. And for Eli Manning, he's done. If you've seen Daniel Dimes, the guy can play. And he completely transformed that offense in his time in. And I think we'll continue to see that in the future. So Eli Manning's done, Phillip Rivers almost, and we'll wait on Ben.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think Daniel Jones has a bright future. So the only way I think Eli Manning's career continues is if some team, for whatever reason, wants to buy in on him as a backup, or maybe if they don't have any other choice as a starter. But speaking of starters, we've had a lot of backups with these injuries for these guys. I mean, for the Jets, their third string, Falk is in. Obviously, we talked about Mason Rudolph a little bit. So for those backups, who do we think has the potential to have a permanent starting job, or who is showing that they have the potential to get a big contract with as a backup or anything?
Well, I think Daniel Jones is already a starter because what we saw when we faced the Bucs, leading a comeback game as your first start, throwing like 3 to 4 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, something like that.
He's definitely already had the starting job. Eli should literally just pack up his stuff and leave at this point. Get him a thing of water at practice. Wear a red shirt. Just watch him because you're not getting your starting job back. I'm sorry. Mason Rudolph, I think, could have the potential to be the starter once Ben leaves. That depends if Ben leaves in the next year or two, and if he can somehow lead the Steelers to a victory and consecutive victories. I think he has a chance to. But for the quarterbacks, I think they just got to keep going, keep progressing, keep going, and yeah.
All right.
I honestly have to say the legend, Gardner Minshew, is the best there is right now for his team. You look at the Jaguars, they were always a defensive heavily team. Even with if Jalen Ramsey moves out, that's not going to change because they've always set their mind tone on defense. Just look who they have up at the operations there, Tom Coughlin, who won 2 Super Bowls by playing good defense against perhaps the best team there ever was, the Patriots, twice, not just once, twice. I think if Minshew has a really good defense to back him up, he'll do just fine. And if Fournette doesn't get hurt again, that's a big thing. He'll be the best out of this backup quarterback massacre that's been happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Gardner Minshew has looked great. He's making all the throws. He's a leader, and he's everything you want in a quarterback. The only problem is you just paid Nick Foles a ton of money.
A lot.
So that's something you're going to have to consider going forward. But if the guy's going to win you games, you got to play him. A guy that I want to talk about, though, is Kyle Allen down for the Panthers. Cam Newton has not looked great. He's definitely still banged up. And with Ron Rivera on the hot seat, I think you got to consider riding Kyle Allen while he's hot. He had 4 touchdowns last game, over 300 yards passing. And if you're going to get that kind of production, and Cam Newton's still just going to be around that 60 to 50% completion rate or percentage, then you got to put Kyle Allen out there. Might be your guy.
It could be. I agree. Minshew, I mean, he's a very big icon at the moment just for his mustache and just his general demeanor. But yeah, I think he's definitely been the best to step in other than Daniel Jones, as you said, Joey. But speaking of a lot of the teams, there's 8 teams at the moment who are undefeated. Among them are the Packers, the Patriots. The biggest surprise for me is the Lions and the Bills, 2-0-1 and 3-0 each. So out of all the teams that we have, who do you think is going to be able to ride out this undefeated streak the longest, and who has the potential to go, well, not say the distance, but could go the farthest out of these teams?
I'm going to have to say the Chiefs. I really like how Patrick Mahomes is playing, especially off his MVP season. People are saying that he could maybe be MVP twice in a year or twice in a row, which I honestly kind of agree with. I mean, he's been dominating. He has like over 1,000 yards passing already in 3 games, which is insane. So if there's one team I think that would definitely go undefeated, it'd probably be the Chiefs.
I'd have to say the Rams and the 49ers in the NFC West. I mean, you have the Arizona Cardinals with one thing, with Murray, who's not going to go to the playoffs anytime real soon here. And with Seattle, their defense is not quite what it used to be, but they're still a really solid team. But when they get out on the road in the playoffs, they tend to fail at the end of it. So once they're in the wild card, Rams and the 49ers will play them at home and probably crush them.
For me, I think I'm going to have to go with the Patriots. I mean, Tom Brady is the GOAT. They've showed so far they look almost unbeatable. The only thing that's going to keep them from going undefeated in the regular season is if Tom Brady gets hurt. They've had some injuries on the offensive line, but despite that, it's always been plug and play, next man up for the Patriots, and I think that's the team. Another team I would look at is the Chiefs. I really like what the Chiefs are doing. The defense looks improved, and I could see them running the table as well, but you got to watch out for that first round knockout whenever they do play in the playoffs, because that's just what they do. Andy Reid.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. I think when we go down the stretch and we get down to playoff time, I think we're going to see a repeat of the AFC Championship. It's going to be the Pats against Kansas City. Who knows if it'll be the same outcome, but I think just Pat Mahomes is still on track to do a lot of the same things he's already done. So who knows? He could very well, as you said, Joey, repeat as MVP again. But I think in the NFC, it'd be kind of have a nice blast from the past and have the Cowboys and 49ers go at it again like they used to. But that's a bit of a stretch. It is early for a lot of this stuff, but if I had to see something I'd like to see, I'd put my money on that. But there are a lot of games, obviously, going on in the next couple of days. So just in general, whether it's from a fantasy standpoint or just a general who you think is going to beat who, what do you think is your lock of the week? What team is going to beat who and by how much?
Well, for me, my lock of the week this weekend is going to be the Seahawks at the Cardinals. Seahawks are giving 5 and Cardinals are receiving 5. So the Cardinals would have to score 5 points to cover or just win the game. And the Seahawks will need to win by 5 or more points. I really like the Seahawks in this game because I'm getting a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame coach, and I got weapons on the defensive line that can get after the quarterback. The Cardinals right now have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And because of that, I really like the Seahawks. And a little fun fact, the Cardinals are 1-8-1 in true home games since last year. So hit that line.
That's a nasty statistic.
Go with the Seahawks.
My lock game is probably going to be the Steelers and the Bengals. I really believe that the Steelers are going to get their gear together and actually win a game this year because it is the Bengals. They are still terrible. It's just not as like the Steelers, but a lot more worse. Andy Dalton, he's regressing. He's not going to be as good. AJ Green is out. I think the Steelers defense is going to get their game up. They're going to get the pass rush on the quarterback. And Juju Smith-Schuster is going to make some plays out there just like he did last year. And Mason Rudolph is also going to be poised under pressure. He's going to throw the ball down the field, score some touchdowns, and they're going to win the game.
Let me first say sorry to Josh Rosen for having a poor team with you again. But my lock's the Chargers over the Dolphins by 24, at least 24 points, because the Dolphins have no defense absolutely whatsoever, and they traded all their players away. Offensively, defensively, Josh Rosen has nothing to work with at all, and they're about to trade Kenyon Drake, so then they'll have nothing to work with. And as a backup, you have Ryan Non-Fitzmagic, where he throws a bunch of interceptions that, aren't even really good throws. And I don't see Miami getting anywhere, and they might be the next team to go 0-16. They just might be.
Well, there's some good picks. But give you a little fact there, Sherman. Ryan Fitzmagic is so good that he holds the NFL record for most interceptions thrown on separate teams with 8. So, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But those are some good picks. This is a real need for the Steelers to get a win this week. It could potentially be that. But and probably we'll go up next with something that could be dead news, but also it's still who knows what's going to come up, and that's with AB, or as Mr. Big Chest, as Sermon always likes to call him. He's had a crazy offseason, to say the least, getting traded to the Raiders, then getting kicked off the Raiders, going to the Patriots for 11 days, scoring 1 touchdown, and now has sexual assault and rape allegations against him. So just general thoughts, what do you think? Is any team going to take him? Any just general thoughts?
Absolutely no team is going to take AB. He is a cancer in the locker room. He's a cancer for a team. If you got cut by the Patriots out of all the teams in a week, you're not going to play in the NFL again. He even said it himself, I'm done with the NFL because these owners can't pay me. Dude, he literally was guaranteed $9 million. If he would have behaved for 2 days more, He lost literally $30 million just because he couldn't keep his head out of his butt and stay off of social media. Because if you heard in the news, he tweeted, or at least messages his accuser some threatening messages, which then made him get kicked off the Patriots. And to me, when they traded him back in April to the Oakland Raiders, they was like, oh, we just lost AB. No, we lost a cancer, and we technically won this trade. Because the Oakland Raiders don't even have AB anymore. Neither do the Patriots, neither does any other team. He's not going to play with any other team in the NFL for a long time. If there's any team he's going to play for, it's going to be in the XFL, like his father. But even that's a stretch.
The recent thing I heard is he's taking online classes at Central Michigan, but who knows with him? I mean, when you post a video on your YouTube channel yelling, I'm free, I'm free. I mean, what is that? You lost $30 million for 1 year, and when you went to the Patriots, you got a pay cut, and now you're thinking about yourself more than the team, and you basically screwed up your chances to ever come in again, but teams are still interested in him. I have no idea why they would be. He shouldn't be in the NFL ever again, honestly, or any football field anywhere professionally, ever.
Well, I think AB's done, and that's all there really is to say about it. We won't see him the rest of the year until these allegations get cleared up, and then we might not even see him until next year. I think his best chance is the XFL, and him and Jarvis will look good together, but I'm done with AB, and I think it's time for everyone else to be as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And minus the allegations that have come against him, just everything that's been going on with him since his last year with the Steelers up to now, I'll tell you what, it's at least been entertaining and very interesting to follow, but we'll see what else is to come. But that'll do it for now here at Big Hit on NFL. As always, this is Michael Surma, Joey Chrisman, Luke Smiltz, and I've been your host, Jake Smagnall, and stay tuned for more from the Big Hit.
Hey! 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 Hey!
Hi.
Hey! Matt Chips here with something special just for you. Press Start! Press Start is the most prestigious, hilarious, and entertaining TV show ever seen on air. You want to watch? Here's what you do. Grab a TV, grab a remote, and turn it to... And there you have it. Delicious gaming and nerdy content right there in front of you. Bring the wife, bring the kids, bring your friends, bring your dog, your dad, your mom. Sit them all down and watch Press Start.
I don't mind Press Start, but I really prefer what a
Yeah, I guess it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Press Start's pretty cool.
Welcome back to the Big Hit. I'm going to be your host for this segment of IUP football. I'm Stephen Langdon Jr., joined by Elliot Hicks and Jeff Hart. And boys, we saw an absolute bloodbath this past weekend. IUP Crimson Hawks winning 77-14. First, I'm going to start out with Elliot. Elliot, what were your thoughts on the game? You commentated the game for IUP-TV.
Right. Well, the final result wasn't really a surprise to me. Scoring 77 points and only giving up 14 was a surprise. But the Lock Haven Bald Eagles had not beaten IUP, whether it be home or away or anywhere else, since the early 80s. I think
1981.
1981, exactly. So I really was not expecting Lock Haven to come in and do well. They do actually have a win this season against a team whose name escapes me right now. But
Lincoln, PA.
Lincoln. I thought Lincoln. One of the only teams in Pennsylvania probably worse than Lock Haven. But it looks like Lock Haven is probably well on their way to yet another losing season, and the last winning season also sometime in the mid-80s, I think 85 or 86. So, that's me saying a lot of negative stuff about Lock Haven and not a lot of positives about IUP. There were a lot of good things about IUP. They got the running game going better than they had the first 2 weeks. Samir Bullock is now 5th all-time on the career rushing yards chart, passing Lenny Williams. Had a nice touchdown run. And even though Quentin Maxwell played great as a starting quarterback, but you could argue Jalen Reese played better against the partially the first string and second string Lock Haven defense. He only had one incompletion, threw for more touchdowns than Quentin Maxwell. And the combined touchdown total for the quarterbacks, I believe, was the most in IUP history.
Yep.
7 touchdowns in a game. So overall, you couldn't have asked for a better day for IUP.
It was also the most passing touchdowns in this season in Division II.
Wow.
Whether it be by one quarterback or two quarterbacks, whatever, most passing touchdowns.
When you score 77 points, you got to put up a lot of touchdowns. So that makes sense.
You know, I want to talk about one thing about Lock Haven. You know, I talked about it yesterday on the Penn Sports Network. For any of you who are watching, please watch the Penn Sports Network. Subscribe, watch, read some of the articles. Great stuff in there. We're producing content every week. But I was really wondering what Lock Haven's mindset was when they opened up the game. They had a lot of success running up the middle with Schwartz. They had 3-4 plays in a row where Schwartz got 5, 6, 7 yards. And they were driving. They got to the 1 yard line, fumbled it. Okay, that's fine. Recover. They started driving again the next time they got the ball. Got to about the red zone, threw a pick. Then after that, they deviated away from rushing the ball as much. Then they started putting in Persa, and then they did Knight, their quarterbacks. Like, I didn't understand what the goal was about switching out their quarterbacks constantly. My thought was stick with one, because you're not going to let either of them gain momentum, and that's exactly what happened. Later in the game, once they kept Knight in long enough, he gained some momentum, and that's what got them the 2 touchdowns. And because Knight was allowed to create, that was the other thing. They let him use his feet. But IUP, I don't even know where to start at. It was the whole team. Everybody. Dylan Sarka set another record. We're talking about records. 11 made extra points, set an IUP record. I mean, just crazy numbers. But my biggest thing is I'm not even going to talk bad about Lock Haven. Obviously, they have a lot of improvement to go on after this game. They obviously have not had as much success in program history. This was the 35th straight win by IUP over Lock Haven. But my biggest thing, how do you game plan? Who are you planning against? At wide receiver, we got guys like Dwayne Walls coming up this week. Kayshaw Carter lit it up. I mean, you got guys already like Dwayne Brown, who has had a great start to the season. You already got JoJo Gauze. At running back, who are you playing against? Tyler Balega, Malik Anderson, Samir Bullock, Justice Evans. I mean, quarterback, Quentin Nelson, Jalen Reese. I agree with your thoughts, Elliot. I think Jalen Reese looks really good. But that was also against a team that had probably already given up by that point. They didn't look the same. It was garbage time. But I don't think, until Maxwell shows me that he's not playing at the same or better production of Jalen Reese, I don't think there's cause to pause about it, I guess. But I definitely think Jalen Reese is showing, hey, I deserve some recognition as a top-tier quarterback too. And I love what I'm seeing from the Hawks. And I think the unsung hero of the game was that offensive line and the tight ends. All of the tight ends got involved. Cam Suman caught a touchdown. Kelly got involved. Watt almost had one in the first half, but had that interference call that took it away. So, I mean, just everybody. I mean, every time we would run a wide receiver sweep, we had linemen just pancaking people, giving them room. So just an all-around performance. Credit to Coach Tortorella and the training staff. I mean, when a whole team does well, that's not just one player. That's training and conditioning and game planning. So just phenomenal performance.
Right. One point I want to make real quick about the Maxwell versus Reese thing. I think Quentin Maxwell is easily the starting quarterback for IUP. I don't think there's any debate about that. But it is great to now see 2 weeks in a row you have Jalen Reese come in, perform well. Garbage time or not, the fact that he seems to know the offense pretty well and can seem to execute it well enough against at least warm bodies. It makes you feel good to have a backup quarterback who, in the event Maxwell getting hurt, can come in and play effective football. Absolutely. I mean, especially in the NFL, we've seen it right now with all these quarterbacks getting injured. It's always good to have next guy up. And we have that at almost every position. I mean, you name it. We're 3, 4, 6. I mean, it doesn't matter. We're deep at every position.
Absolutely. So moving on from Lock Haven game, we have now Mercyhurst this weekend. We're going to be playing in Erie. It's going to be a tough game, I think. It's going to be one of the hardest opponents since week 1 against New Haven. So, guys, what's your thoughts on this game coming up?
Well, Mercyhurst is not a team to sneeze at. Obviously, they're a little bit better than the Millersville and Lock Haven teams they played the last couple weeks. And it'll be a really important game to see what the Crimson Hawks really have against the team that, is not one of the top teams in the PSAC. But again, they're not a bottom feeder either. And it'll be important to see how they play in this game, if they can keep the effectiveness up, how well the offense has performed over the last 2, even 3 games if you go back to New Haven, to see if they'll be able to keep up the good play heading into arguably their 2 toughest games of the year against California and Slippery Rock in the 2 weeks following.
I think this game has potential to be a great tune-up game, kind of tuning up the intensity before your hardest opponents of the year. I don't think anyone who watches PSAC football would debate that Cal U and Slip are the hardest opponents we face this year. It always comes down to the Slippery Rock game. I personally believe that will be the defining moment of our season on whether or not we can get past what has been religiously our bugaboo, at least the last couple of years. We haven't been able to get past Slippery Rock. But Mercyhurst is a very respectable program, but I think people don't take into account a lot of times, especially with collegiate athletes, because they have to drive. There's no flights, anything like that. That's a 2.5-hour drive to Erie. Actually, more like 3. That's a long drive to be cooped in there. Erie weather, it's going to be cold. I grew up in Erie, to anyone who does not know. I've seen 5 feet of snow on Christmas. I wish I was exaggerating. It gets cold off the lake. I mean, it's crazy. And, Mercyhurst has a respectable program. They've had some players come through the last couple of years. A couple of years ago, Brandon Brown Dukes came up through the program, was on the practice squad for the Steelers 2 training camp. So they've had some success there. I got to watch the games personally. My dad was involved with the university, so it's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, a lot of competition coming up. You mentioned the big games coming up. They got Mercyhurst. Then they come back home for Cal U in the homecoming game and then have to go back out to Slippery Rock. And we all know how bad Slippery Rock could be. Roland Rivers has looked phenomenal this year. And pretty much we're going to be dealing with 2 of the better quarterbacks in Division II. But, of course, we have Mercyhurst coming up. But as we wind down, what are our predictions for the rest of the season?
Well, as for how the rest of the season will go, I think the Slippery Rock game will be the defining moment of the year, and I think that that'll be IUP's only loss of the regular season, and it'll keep them out of the PSAC championship, which is sad to think of. But I think that how IUP is playing, if they can get through Cal U, then that should be good enough for them to get a playoff spot unless they lose one of those end-of-season games like with Shippensburg last year. The slim chance that IUP had of making the playoffs at that point with the losses to Cal and Slippery Rock was completely wiped out by a loss to Shippensburg. So even if they lose to Cal and or Slippery Rock, which again, I think unfortunately we're going to lose one of those 2 games, probably against the Slippery Rock Pride or the Rock or whatever you call them, since they don't want to have a real mascot. I think that will be that'll be the defining moment of the year. But I think the Crimson Hawks still will go to the playoffs, even if it's without the conference championship, and we'll see what they can do on a national scale.
I'm going to go big on this one. I'm saying the Crimson Hawks are going to the national championship. And I'm not just resorting to hyperbole here. I'm not just saying that because I love the Crimson Hawks. I'm saying that because I get we've gone up against easier opponents. I get that. We're beating the brakes off of them. We're winning like we should. And my thing here is we're deep. So let's say Maxwell is having a bad first half. Okay, put Jalen Reese in and see if he gets hot. Okay, Justice Evans gets hurt. Samir Bullock can come up. Malika Anderson, Tyler Balega. I mean, not that obviously you would want any of that to happen, and hopefully it will not happen to any of our key players. But even if it does, we're ready. We're deep. We're an experienced team, and there's something about them this year. They look different to me. There's something special about when I watch them play. I don't know, and who knows? Something could happen. Slippery Rock is very talented, and you talked about their QB situation right now is really good.
It's solid.
So if there's going to be a team that will do it, it will be Slippery Rock. But this team is special. They're out there to prove something. Last year was disappointing, like you talked about. It was bad enough they lost to Cal and Slippery Rock, and above that at home for their homecoming game. But then the Ship game, that was just kind of a spit in the face to us. So, I mean, even when we interviewed Quentin Maxwell for the TPSN exclusive, he talked about, recovering and being better than we were last year. He wasn't even here. He transferred from Ohio. And if that's ingrained in him already as of only being here for a few months, my God, what do the other players think? I mean, he wasn't even here. He was playing D1 for the Bobcats. I don't know. This team is scary to me. I mean, Coach Tortorella's had the best start for any coach in program history. I believe he's 22-4 now after the Lock Haven game. It's just head to shoulder. I mean, it's just, I don't know. This team is just special to me.
Yeah, they have a lot of assets, Jeff. I know you talked about that the last few days, but I mean, it has to be the energy. I mean, what Coach Tortorella has instilled in these players is that we need to win, and we need to win now because there's a lot of seniors on this team. They have a lot of big players that are going to be leaving at the end of the year. So if you're going to win a national championship, it has to be this year. Now, for the teams above them, there's a lot of good teams. Valdosta State. They won a national championship last year. They're looking like they'll be going near a national championship again this year. So, maybe we will see them later down the road. But as of right now, IUP is looking very solid. And the next 3 weeks, I think, are going to determine what this season really is. But that would just about wrap it up from here at The Big Hit. I'm your host, Stephen Langdon Jr., joined by Ellie Hicks, Jeff Hart, and we'll see you guys next week.